This
questions,
conference will now be recorded.
if you have any questions, please use the chat box. I try to read them as much as I can. And Fernando, you can also help me if any questions come. Okay, so let's begin then. Fernando, please.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Yanjin, for the organization of this session, and also for the speakers, Paola, Bas, Chris, and Andreas, for joining us today and sharing your insights on this topic. The workshop of today, it's on online work. It's on identifying priorities for research and innovation in logistics. And as you know, the logistics sectors is in continuous change, requiring agility and flexibility also in the supply chains. It is not only that we need to address climate change, but also many other issues such as truck shortage, unbalance in flows and lack of equipment in ports, ports closures, surge in containers prices, dealing with microchips shortages, and eventually a lot of concern is rising that some supply chains will not be able to support Santa Claus this year for Christmas. And it's also that cities are also in deep transformation, and e-commerce is making deliveries short. So logistics really need to adapt fast and have the means and tools to do so, as well as the knowledge to address the challenges together. So I will share what is BOOSTLOG about, and BOOSTLOG, through BOOSTLOG we will look into the past and learn for the future on the basis of our extensive knowledge and past projects funded by the EU. We are identifying key research and innovation results and outcomes to make them visible to industry and policymakers. Additionally, we will dig in what we call the implementation cases, that are market initiatives of policies implementations that have a causal link with research and innovation results and outcomes. Based on the consortium assessment, but in close collaboration with other networks and those really working on those projects, we are creating industry reports that are actionable with well-recognized opportunities to implement already in the market. By the way, on the 24th of November, we have the presentation of the first report on coordination and collaboration, and we'll hand over the first Alice Logistics Innovation Award. Maybe Yanjin, you can share in the chat the registration link for this one meantime. We will also gather what worked well and what did not work at all in those projects, which are the specific elements or ingredients that made them a success or not. Through our outreach towards the European Commission, industry, regional clusters, and member states in Alice Mirror Group, we will leverage the findings and gather other learnings so we can generate a virtuous innovation ecosystem for logistics at European level. As a concrete output, we will create an innovation marketplace linked to the current Alice Knowledge Platform as a digital arena for innovation seekers, owners, investors to find themselves. But we also plan, hopefully soon, to have face-to-face meetings so to scale up outcomes and convert them in market solutions. The focus of today's meeting is in looking into the future and identifying high priority and potential research and innovation gaps that are of crucial importance to achieve industry and policy objectives and addressing all these challenges I mentioned in the introduction. The resulting new projects will be set use to be liaised with Alice and be the fuel for the next generation of this ongoing process in the future. And last but not least, we will take over the methodologies and assets here generated through BOOSTLOG in Alice, and we will have the right tools to enlarge the ecosystem at scale, getting more and more companies, governments, and research development working together and collaborating to address the common challenges. So today workshop has the two parts. In the first part, we'll share how Alice expects to use the results of this process by collaborating with the European Commission, countries, regions, funding organizations, and programs. As you know, the baseline for Alice recommendations are Alice industry roadmaps that are here so in the slide, and that are not only implemented by industry and companies, but also serve to support the definition of EU research and innovation programs. And Paola Chiarini will provide you further insights on this process. Then the reach is not only to the European Union, but also research programs in countries. And Bas van Bree from Dynalog, that is the funding organization in the Netherlands for logistics research and innovation, will share the case of the Netherlands, but other countries such as Austria have strong track record in this regard as well. Additionally, regional programs usually supported by research-driven clusters like the BIL are also inspired by Alice roadmaps and implementing them through their own projects. And as you see here, the arrows are in the two directions, meaning that from these programs and these projects are also really contributing to shape the European Alice industry agenda. So it's really two sides and enforcing process. And then in the second part of the workshop, we will focus on the work that BOOSTLOG projects is doing to identify high priority and potential research and innovation gaps under the leadership of Andreas Nestrater from Fraunhofer IML. Of course, this BOOSTLOG exercise will feed into the Alice, and a prioritization will be made to share and discuss priorities for the next Horizon Europe program in 23-24. Indeed, this process has already started and will last will last, yes, for the full 2022, and at the end of 2022 the new calls will be published, but Paola may address this more concretely. And in this period, Alice will update, consult its members, and the recommendations to be issued to the Europe work programs and partnerships. So then we can advance in that direction. But of course, all of you have your say not only to share your priorities, but also actively participate in the process, advocating for the topics that are priorities for you in this discussion. You can do this towards networks such as Alice, but also country and regional programs. So you know that 80% of the funding in research is distributed on country and regional levels. So here, whenever there are European agreed research and innovation recommendations, normally it's also well received by these funding programs, saying, okay, look, at European level, this is a priority. Why don't we address this? That is also an issue for our country or our region. So at the end, this is a collaborative exercise and effort. Very glad that so many joined today for this effort that we are doing, and with the support of the European Commission through the BOOSTLOG project. And as we say in Alice, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And we hope with you can really go as far as to reach our challenging objective. So thank you very much, and back to you, Jianjin.
Okay, thank you. We will get the next the first keynote speech from the European Commission. Paula, I get your presentation ready, and then maybe you can already start it to introduce yourself. I'm not familiar with this GoToMeeting. Yeah.
Thank you, Yang, and thank you to you and Fernando for inviting me to this workshop. So my name is Paola Chiarini. I worked for the Unit Innovation and Research in DG Mobility and Transport. This means that In my unit, together with a number of colleagues and also other parts of the Commission, we are in charge for drafting and defining the work program published, the Research and Innovation Work Program. And currently, we have started the preparation for the work program for 2023, 2024. And what I will try to do today is really to explain a little bit how things will work. So thank you very much for this invitation. Also, I really look forward to the rest of the workshop to understand what are the needs, the research needs of the community. So thanks for the first slides. I would like to start with this image. So you have on the left side the ALICE topics recommendation that I received in May 2020. And on the right side, you can see the topics, the logistics related topics that have been published in the Horizon Europe Work Program for 2021-2022, so the current work program. And as you can see from the arrows and keywords highlighted in red, there is quite a correspondence between the two sides, so the recommendations and the actual work program and the actual topics. Does this mean that Alice writes the work program? I'm afraid no, this is not the case. Did it happen by chance? This is not the case either. So what actually happened and why there is this correspondence? Next, please, Yang Ying. So thank you. What I would like to do today very briefly is to explain what we did to draft the work program 2021-2022, what is happening currently on the work program 2023-2024, and what we can do to design the new work program. Next, please. Thank you. So what did we do to draft the work program 2021-2022, how it works, how this project works? When drafting a work program, so the Commission has the power of initiation. When drafting a work program, we want to present topics which supported the Union's policy priorities. So first of all, in our cases, there are a number of documents, and this for logistics is, for instance, decarbonization, digitalization, reducing emissions, having a more efficient sector, and also helping, supporting the competitiveness of the sector. But at the same time, what we want to do is to make certain that the topics correspond to the research needs of the community so that they are useful for the stakeholders. So what do we do? ALICE, as a European technology platform and an association that has very large membership, is a point of reference for us, for our activities, and is a point of reference to reach a large part of the logistic community. It's not the only one. For instance, this is workshops like this one, projects that we support like BOOSTLOG are also very important to reach the logistics community. And this means that we have regular exchanges with ALICE and with other stakeholders, really to define what to do. For the work program, the current work program, what we did, for instance, was to start a dialogue with ALICE, actually even before, but we started a clear dialogue already, I think, around 2018. And then it means that through these continuous exchanges, by listening to what were the research needs and the strategic priorities of the community, and at the same time, explaining what are the policy priority for the Commission, we refined some of our ideas, and the ideas started to converge. And this is why actually the recommendations from ALICE, the latest version of the recommendations from ALICE, and the work programs have very many points of contact, and they are quite consistent. As I said, this doesn't mean that ALICE writes or co-writes the work program, but it means that it's very important for us to listen to the stakeholders and all the stakeholders. And some that are very important, of course, are the member states that I will explain in the next slides. I have a very important role. Next one, please. So what's happening for the work program 2023-2024? What is the drafting process? We have taken stock of what happened for the first work program during the summer. So basically, we try to understand what worked, what didn't work in the drafting process with all the stakeholders and internal procedures. By November, so very soon, we will start having the first what is called draft orientations to our work program. It means that this will be a high-level internal documents, internal at least for the time being, indicating what are the main areas where we want to address in the next work program. So the first idea already starts being put forward. Then there is a long period from December to normally June 2022 that it will be the actual preparation and drafting of the topics and the work programs through several iterations, several versions, several discussions with stakeholders. And as I said before, one of the most important stakeholders are the member states that have an actually formal role in the program committee in the definition of these topics. So there will be all these discussions. Please keep in mind that even if this process is very long, the initial ideas will definitely be defined in November, December. So this will be really the key moment to put forward ideas, to start really defining at least the big areas. Maybe it's possible then to define different details to add a point, but the big area will be defined now. Then over summer, next summer, we will finalize the draft work program. And then towards autumn and end of 2022, there will be more internal procedures to adopt internally the work program and then to have an official adoption by the end of the year 2022. So quite a long process. Next, please. So what can we do to design the new work program? What we can do together? First of all, please provide inputs. This is, for me, is very important to participate in these kind of workshops, in this kind of event, and I really look forward to listen to the discussion later on today. But it's very important that also your ideas reach us, that you send them through Alice, through BOOSTLOG directly, and that we understand what are the real key areas that you would like to see addressed. As a second point, please set priorities. Like everywhere in every sector of life, we have limited resources. So it's very important to understand which are the top priorities, what you really consider that should be addressed, that has not been addressed before. So it's important for us also that BOOSTLOG looks into gaps, areas that we have not funded before. And I'm also much appreciated that Fernando already introduced this point. Please set priorities for EU level. So there are clearly ideas that can be addressed at EU level, ideas that are better addressed at national level and with national programs, and ideas that are very, very important, areas that are there to be addressed, but maybe they have to be addressed directly by industry, by the private sector. So please try to set also which these priorities, understand what really will make a difference, will have an impact in the future. And as my final point, I would ask you to be realistic in your expectation. As I said already, resources are limited, and unfortunately, not all the wish can be fulfilled. In the past, we received even list of 30 different points, and that will not be possible to fund all these ideas. So please be realistic, set priorities, and be really active in informing us. I remain available for questions whenever Yang you consider that in your agenda, and I thank you for your attention. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Paula. And any questions you can directly ask, or you can leave information in the chat box, and we can revisit later. Okay, thank you very much, Paula, for this very well-structured presentation, also very informative. We move to the next one. Bas, are you ready? I try to find your presentations and I share the screen for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Yang, and everyone for having me and introducing the work of Dynalog, which is the research institute, coordinating research institute in the Netherlands, also on behalf of the ministry. Let's wait for the slides. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, if you could move to the next, please. So briefly about Dynalog, we are part of the Dutch top sector of logistics, which is an economic and innovation policy in the Netherlands. We started with 9 top sector, and the logistics is one of them in the Netherlands. And Dynalog is the research institute, as I explained, but the top sector of logistics has a program which is not only focused on research and innovation, but also on implementation and scaling up of initiatives. Could you please move to the next, Janine? So innovation policy in the Netherlands has changed a bit. A couple of years ago, it was a focus with a focus on the top sector, the 9 top sectors, but it's changed a bit to a mission-oriented innovation policy. But the execution of those missions is mainly coordinated by the 9 top sectors, because they have the infrastructure of research institute companies, industry involved already in place, and we are mainly, not exclusively, using that infrastructure to program and fund R&D in R&I in the Netherlands. So the top sector of logistics in itself is an organization existing from. We are coordinating the research activities, and our a partner association, Connect, is doing a lot of work on the implementation and scaling up of activities. So both we are combined represent the top sector of logistics. And we are contributing actively in several of the missions. For the Netherlands, they are examples like security, energy, transition, and transition in healthcare. And we are contributing there in a number of these missions very actively. You can imagine that in the Netherlands and probably in the rest of Europe as well, that we see, for instance, in healthcare, a major transition of healthcare which will be provided in the living environment of the clients itself. Well, that needs to be organized. So you see there that the role of the logistics sector is combined with the role of the healthcare sector. It's much more integrated approach, which we see now happening in the Netherlands than before. But we also have our own working program for research and innovation, which is dedicated or focused on the logistics sector and supply chain. So Dynalog is coordinating all of the dedicated R&I funding related to the logistics industry, and funding is coming from several agencies and also from several Dutch ministries, and we are combining that, and we are putting out calls for proposals together with the Dutch Research Council. Please move to the next, Janine. So in a nutshell, we have a focus, obviously, as Dynalog, on the Netherlands. So we are looking at the mission-oriented knowledge and innovation agendas for the several missions who have been defined by the Dutch cabinet. And the top sector of logistics itself has a number of strategic priorities. And what we are doing is gathering that information and translating that to a program development and funding opportunities of projects we think topics we think relevant. But on the other hand, we are also looking at what Pauline just shown, the Horizon Europe, the Connecting Europe facilities on the one hand, but also what's going on the industrial and energy and research policy. And also, for instance, the digital strategy of Europe also has impact on the way we are organizing our program, and also the funding of the type of projects we would like to see. So we are combining both the Dutch priorities from several perspectives, but also from a Euro perspective, and we combine them into our program development. To the next, please. So how do we identify priorities? The top sector and TKI, Dynalog, have a focus on. We are focusing now on two, let's say, dimensions. I'm not so sure if that's the right word, but the scope of application is important for us. So cities have their own challenges, corridors and nodes have their own challenges, but the role of the Netherlands in mainly international supply chains is also another perspective which we take into account. Of course, all activities are somehow interconnected, so it's not that we are solitary focusing on, for instance, cities. They are also connected to the corridors and their supply chains, but we are focusing the activities on these three fields of application. But we also have, and these will not come as a surprise probably, but thematic priorities like sustainability, data-driven logistics, and supply chain coordination, which is the thematic focus within these fields of application. And the program is aligned, and I will show that to make it more practical to what we've seen earlier in the presentation of Fernando, the PI roadmap and the zero emissions roadmap, which are drafted within Alice and Sense, and now bringing that further in the BOOSTLOG projects, of which we are all part. Please move to the next, Janine. So a bit more practical. On the one hand, you see that we are using the state of art in research and European level and also in an international level through the EU Sense project, EU-funded Sense project, of which the roadmap to the physical internet is a result. And below you see the Dutch priority document. So this leads to the priorities and recommendations, and what we are doing then is basically provide funding for research projects. And on the right side, you see a number of projects which we have funded recently and which are connected, I would say, to the physical internet roadmap, but also priorities set in the working program. So we are aligning these activities. And you can see on the website dynalog.nl not a lot of projects we are funding at the moment. Please move to the next. This leads to a practical, also of course, to practical results, which make it more aligned. You can see here that this is a result paper drafted, a public paper drafted by the Rijksuniversiteit Groningen, University of Groningen, which focus on the role of ports and their hinterland networks in the logistics of the future. And this is the result of a project focused on the role of ports and their hinterland in the development of the physical internet. So this is, here you see that the practical results coming out of our research also provide input in turn to what we use in new recommendations to the work program. And this we will share through the BOOSTLOG project and directly within Alice as an organization to make this more practical. Please move to the next. So another practical example, what we are doing now. So on the left, you see again the document, the priority document. And one of the topics is that we need to, or we see that we need to lay a foundation for digital transformation of the sector. A lot of companies are lagging behind in the digital transfer. So what we are doing then, and you see that in the middle, is on the one hand, have a practical approach So we are looking at how can we use eCMR as a mechanism to boost the digital transformation. And we are making it very practical to see what can eCMR mean for a number of supply chains. But we are also helping small and medium enterprises to support their search for digital maturity. So we are actually helping companies with a digital maturity scan and try to see where the opportunities lie for them to move from one phase of digital maturity to another. Some are have to be realistic. Some are already working on advanced AI solution, artificial intelligence solutions, but some really still need to transfer from Excel files. I'm exaggerating maybe a bit, but Excel files to a more digital core. So that's practical. And on the R&I activities, we are identifying, for instance, now opportunities how the international data space solutions or architecture could be applied in a digital data space for the logistics sector. But we also focus, for instance, on other technology or technology which could be supporting, like blockchain technology. And we have founded the Living Lab for that to explore the opportunities for blockchain, which really leads to practical results. So the outcomes of both we use, and you see that on the right-hand side, and we are actually part at the moment of that process. We are using the outcomes for EU recommendations. And once again, I'd like to stress that we are doing that mainly through Alice and BOOSTLOG, because we think that it makes more sense to do that with the industry and with other research institutes also from other countries to align those priorities. So we are using that as a set of recommendation, and today's session is of course part of that process. I think this was my last slide, Yanjing, and I hope I have made in a nutshell clear what we are doing as an organization and how we are aligning in both directions the activities we are doing as the top sector of logistics in the Netherlands and the EU funded programs on the other hand. Thank you.
And thank you very much. And that's a very, very informative and inspiring presentation. Any questions from the audience? Either you can directly ask questions or leave your message in the chat box. I heard some echoes, so if people don't talk, please mute yourself. If there's no more questions, we can move to the next keynote speakers. We really move from the European levels to the national levels. Now we move to the regional levels. So we will have a regional clusters for Flanders to present their approach, how to identify the research and the innovation priorities. Chris, are you ready? I found the presentation.
I am ready if you have the presentation, yes.
Yes, I'm coming. So, Chris, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. So, yes, I'm Chris Nijens. I'm responsible for internationalization within VIL, the Innovation Cluster for Logistics, or the Spearhead Cluster for Logistics in the region of Flanders. For those who don't know, perhaps it's good to situate the region. It's located in the heart of the Rhine-Scheldt Delta in northwestern Europe. And as such, as many of our competitors also say, the perfect global gateway to and from Europe. But of course, it's no surprise that supply chain and logistics are some of the most important activities that are being developed in the region, and it's a main industry. Also pretty similar or aligned with what Bas was saying is that also the Flanders government is following a cluster strategy. Mainly that was an insight that came because there was a lot of fragmentation in innovation in our region, a lot of funding going left and right, but there was no real consolidation. And that was not only the case in, I would say, the logistics industry, but also in many other industries. So it was effectively, the VIL was effectively the first recognized spearhead cluster, so we're very proud of that, supporting the main industry. And what is really important to note is that we are also a membership organization. So at the heart of everything we do are our members. So the logistics service providers in industry or shippers are our core members. And it's also important to note that they form our board of directors. So they're really at the steering our organization. That's important to understand. So I wouldn't go as far to say it is a 100% bottom-up approach, but the companies are really at the heart. So I think that's really important. Next slide, please. And there you can click a few times because an image will form. What I think is important to state is that even though we say, and we are ideally located, we also face many challenges. So the pollution, congestion, further complicated by the nebular structure of our cities and communities. Basically, our region is one big city. You can almost look at it as that. And then if you, of course, add the ecological and economic challenges, you will automatically feel how complex and how affected by all of this our companies and our members are. So together with our member companies, we, through surveys, workshops, and also a lot of consultation, we defined 4 focus domains. They will not be a surprise for you: digital transformation, green supply chains, hinterland connectivity, and last mile. And in those domains, we set up regional projects, but also engage internationally through collaboration in ALICE, but also through an active role in European projects. Perhaps you can click on the next one. So yes, of course, we're a relatively small organization of 35 people, and of course we cannot do all of this alone. There's a lot of I would say ins and outs and different angles to logistics and supply chain. So we engage with a lot of partners, a multitude of partners, both regional, both international. And we have a few strategic partners, of course, which are located on the regional level, which are strategic research institutes such as IMEC and VITO, but also with the universities. So the next, please. I hope that forms, yes. So if you scrutinize our focus domains in the light of the thematic groups of ALICE, you will see the synchronicity. It's blaringly obvious. It is, I would say, a remarkable but a reassuring synchronicity in the fact that, as mentioned before, those focus domains are the result of the consultation with our members. So I think it is good to notice that those companies, those logistics service providers and shippers confirm through these surveys that effectively also the thematic groups of ALICE are perfectly aligned with their expectations in those domains which they find important to develop or to engage in innovation. I would say the one domain that is a bit more or less defined in our focus domains is the one of global supply network coordination and collaboration. And that team is tackled within the VIL projects, depending on the project and the project type, and also sometimes the TRL level in which we are evolving. So yes, so that's good that companies and stakeholders confirm these to be the challenges. So on a regional level, it's important to note that the cluster has a dedicated annual budget after approval of the individual projects by the Flanders Innovation and Entrepreneurship Agency of about 8 million, and this throughout the complete TRL range. So that is also something that changed drastically once we became a spearhead cluster, that whereas before we were more focusing on, I would say, the TRL levels 7, 8, 9, which was readily applicable for our members, that we now also fund more on the mid to long term. So that's important. And we, as mentioned, we collaborate with other spearhead clusters, for example, energy, chemical industry, new materials, but mainly with other strategic research centers such as IMEC and VITO. And perhaps for pilots and demos, of course, these higher TRL levels are focusing more on mature solutions, not yet mainstream, but also there that collaboration is key. So on an international level, we engage in horizon calls and focus on collaboration in the same domains. And that is really to maximize the international cross-pollination opportunities by being a member of ALICE, giving examples, etc. So the next, please. So next, yeah. So of course, the higher TRL type projects such as research and development or collaborative research and development projects will be more mature in the short term. So they are here aligned. I don't know how much each individually of you can maximize the image of the slide, but I guess they will be available afterwards too. So you see on the axis, there's a multitude of projects that align. And you will see that from the short to midterm, we really align our strategy with that of the physical internet vision and the thematic groups, and that the different project types perfectly align with the time horizon. I think a good example, I'll give one example of this long list, and this is not an exhaustive list, by the way, is the PIL project, which is the Physical Internet Living Lab project, which is a collaborative fundamental research project. So on the longer term, this is led by IMEC in collaboration with the Free University of Brussels and VIL. And in which the requirements to connect transport networks with one another in order to realize true and full synchromodality will be explored. So a prototype to do this will be built and the learnings will be openly shared. And to use a metaphor, I would say the many use cases developed within PIL are mosaics that are placed on, I would say, a mold that forms the foundation to a physical internet model. What's also important to note is that the catalyst for the strategy is VLAIO, which is the Flanders Innovation Agency for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. And they finally approve all our projects after initial validation or even proposals from VIL, as to ensure that the projects that are finally confirmed and approved, that they align with our roadmaps. And if they align with our roadmaps, you see they almost automatically align with the long-term roadmap of ALICE and physical internet vision. And then a next one is a bit, I would like to venture into the next example, the next slide too, is an initiative that we set up in collaboration with the Provincial Development Company of Antwerp and with the support of EFRO, which is Logiville, which is an open experience center fostering innovation. So perhaps you can also go to the next slide. And that is I would say it has two main components. It has a physical demonstration center, which is the playground, I would say, for companies to test and discover mature but not yet mainstream innovations for logistics. And it also has a digital experience center. And the Digital Experience Center focuses on solutions to mitigate the threats and challenges of modern day society and environment to supply chain and logistics. So, and this I think is really important, and where we close the loop, if you go to the next slide, is that effectively we trigger visitors by showing them a video, and I'm not going as far as to say we scare them, but we really highlight those threats and challenges. And after that, in that digital experience center, they get the chance to interactively engage with, I would say, 10 possible solutions around central topics. And they engage interactively with those possible solutions. And there are solutions around last mile logistics, circular economy, alternative modes of transport, full synchromodality, just to give you a taste, artificial intelligence. So they are triggered to see how they think about how the future will develop, how mature that is, etc. So, and after that, we really invite them to explore the vision of the concept of the physical internet. We show the physical internet video. And then after that, they discuss their personal experience of their interactive exercise in group, and we compare them with the envisioned maturity and mainstream tracks vis-a-vis the physical internet roadmap objectives. Open and safe IT networks, Intermodal services door-to-door, all the way to sustainable and integrated urban logistics and city mobility, where we map those innovations and how they think about that. And the reason why we do that is really to learn from these discussions to further shape future activities that we develop as a regional cluster, but also possibly to even define new projects. And what the ambition is effectively is to have these visitors go back to their companies with the vision of the physical internet embedded in their minds, combined with their thoughts on future developments in logistics. So that's how we try to do it on a regional level. Afterwards, always ready for answering any questions you might have, not only today, but also later. So thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris, for all this, for your presentations and for all the information. Also very interesting to see. And we have heard them presentations at different levels, from EU to national and to regional levels. And so if there's no more questions, is any questions you would like to directly ask the speakers? Okay, while we are waiting, we will start the open discussions. Questions I would like to ask for Bas and Chris, for both of you. For your national or regional call for proposals, how much do you open to organizations outside your countries and the region? Is that preliminary focus on funding organizations in your country or region, or you also encourage to create partnerships in different countries and regions?
Okay, perhaps I'll quickly respond from our side. What we do is when we engage actively in proposals as well as a partner, and what we try to do is to bring in regional companies in use cases into proposals and projects with the regional funding that is focused really to, I would say, to the Flanders-based companies. But at the same time, I mean, logistics is trans-border operations. So often there's also some companies that collaborate, especially in the research and development projects that are on a high TRL level. There can be outside, I would say, foreign companies that are also involved. So there's no hard line. But then often what we also will explore is to check whether we can collaborate with their regional funding agency as well. So we're open to discuss those things.
Thank you.
I can build on that because it more or less works the same from our side. Usually, when we publish calls for proposals, the funding we are aligning with that is meant for research and innovation institute and partly for companies who are active in the projects based in the Netherlands. So the room for international companies, I would say, who do not have a or a research institute who do not have a base in the Netherlands, it's in the essence not possible. There is an exception, and when for instance technology or insights cannot be found within the Netherlands, we can look outside. So that's the only exceptions to that rule. But what we are doing, and that's what Chris is also saying, I think, is that we are, for instance, having now a project on international data space and looking for the logistics data space opportunities, and we are aligning those activities with a project which is run by Fraunhofer on the German side. So and that way we are aligning activities at least to see we should not focus on only what's happening in the Netherlands. So we are open to that, and through, of course, BOOSTLOG projects and the finished Sense projects, we are looking for the cooperation within Europe.
Yeah, I think Fraunhofer is a perfect example, and he will be the next speaker too. But effectively, in a regional project where there was almost all the, I would say, European top knowledge about the topic was available at Fraunhofer. We collaborate with them because it's all about leveraging innovation and applying it in the field for the company. So in that respect, we are not, we have no fetish on nationalism there.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chris and Bas. By the way, we see one comment from the chat box that's from Thomas from IMAC and Chris. We need more organizations like VIL, and happy to be part of it. Okay, good work, Chris. Okay, we move to the main focus of today's workshop, and that will be about what we see identify the research and innovation priorities. And that is largely based on BOOSTLOG activities, particularly online questionnaires we launched in this summer. And so, Andreas, are you ready? I will share my screen, or you prefer you operate?
I can share it by myself. I think then it's easier.
Okay, I give you as a speaker, or you're already in speaker. Okay, while we are waiting, I give you as a presenter. Are you
now
okay?
You see it, right?
It's coming, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So after we've heard how to use all those different roadmaps and activities and recommendations, we are now focusing on generating a few ones. And within the BOOSTLOG project, I'm responsible together with Bas and some other colleagues for the work package 4 within BOOSTLOG, which is about to identify priorities for research and innovation in logistics. What we are trying to do there is to develop something like a framework for the identification, the assessment, and consensus building. So we are looking for new ideas. We are trying to harmonize those ideas, and we try to, yeah, like Paola said at the beginning, not come up with 10 ideas at the same time, but try to harmonize them, to summarize them, so that we in the end have a few recommendations which then are perhaps covering a broader scope. Our main focus is to collect input and feedback. This is what we are trying to do today. And we are more or less working in 3 steps. At first, we were looking for logistic clouds, for promising logistic concepts. So which topics are currently under discussion, which are still unsolved, and all such aspects. Then together with ZLC, we are doing a gap analysis. So if we identified hot topics, we have a look at if they are already worked on, if there are projects running on them. And at the 3rd step, we then try to derive recommendations for future R&I activities. What we did in the last months is that we tried to do an online survey to collect your feedback. Of course, also because of Corona, we were not able to do a physical workshop to collect all your input in person. So we tried to do it online, and I will show you now some of the results. And later on, we will try to discuss on those results and see what we can do with them and how to get good recommendations out of them. Just to give you an overview, we had about, I think, 65, is it right? More than 60, I will formulate it that way, more than 60 responses. Here you can see it was mainly bigger organizations and mainly very small organizations. Here you can also see the different types of the organizations. The others, which are here on top, are all the associations, logistic clusters. So they were the main group on responding. We'll also come later to it. Then we had the academia and research, and then the industry partners are following. What we then did is we said we will have a look at the main top 10 topics. Those are the ones who received the most votes during the online survey. You can see them here. And what we also did, this is what if you have a look back at the type of the organizations, we'll also made sure that there is not a big gap between the responses from industry and the responses from academia. So we also had a look at the gap. So who voted more on the different topics, where they are coming from industry, where they are coming from academia, but there we made sure that there are not big gaps in between, and that more or less the responses are harmonized all over the different organization types, which gave us the response to the survey. As you can see here, this is our top 10 list. Not very surprising. It's data sharing, architecture, and technology as the number 1. Then we have the interconnected logistic networks. We have the system of logistic networks, so the physical internet. We have the fostering cooperation and collaboration among the logistics chain. We have supply chain visibility, autonomous operations, autonomous transport. We have e-commerce, delivery concepts, supply chain resilience, and synchromodality. So those are the topics which you said are the number 1, the top 10 topics in our survey. Just to give you a small intro, what we did, we then used all those different responses to generate a heat map. So this heat map shows the relation between our 29 promising logistic concepts together with our 19 key enabling technologies and 16 societal trends and economic drivers. The matrices on the left are showing this. There you can see if it's red, then there is heat between a topic and a technology or a trend. If it's yellow or at the bottom graphics white, then there are no strong relations between them. What we did then, and these are some details from the survey, is that we've seen, also not very surprisingly, there are 2 main trend groups generating more heat than others. Of course, it is everything related to sustainability. As you can see here in the middle box, it's sustainability, resource scarcity, circular economy, climate change. They were, over all the topics, they had the highest rating. And another trend which showed up was the e-commerce and on-demand related trends. So those two trends are the ones who are driving more or less all the topics in logistics. We can see something similar if we have a look at the technologies. Also, not very surprisingly, it is everything on data analytics, data infrastructure are generating a huge heat, much more than all the other ones. And also here, I've written it down here again, we made sure that there is not a gap between academia, industry, clusters. So we made sure that all the responses are more or less harmonized and we don't have bigger gaps between them. What we then did, or the other way around, before I go to the recommendations, I would like to ask you, and I think Fernando needs to get the presentation mode right now. I would like to ask you via Slido, if having in mind the top 10 topics, which topic do you think we need to add definitely to this top 10 list? Perhaps then it will be a top 11 or top 12 list, but which topic should we add? And perhaps we can also have a short discussion afterwards and you can say why we need to have a look at it. So Fernando is showing the Slido login, so you can use the QR code or go to Slido and use the BOOSTLOG hashtag, and then you can just type it in your browser. And then also the other ones can vote for your input, so that we then directly can see if other people are more or less agreeing or disagreeing to what you've written there. What perhaps you don't have any additional topics because we already asked, of course, for them during the survey and had this huge amount of 26 different topics. I think what we learned also during the survey is that there are only a few topics which get a high amount of votes and a lot of topics who only get very less votes. So now I see topics popping up. So you can also, if you already see a topic on the list which you think is more important than the other ones, I guess you can also vote for them. Or Fernando, I think you just need to type in the first letters, and then it will show up, and then you can do the voting,
yes.
right?
Yeah, actually, if you start typing the first letters when you are putting your input, then those ones that are matching to you, these letters will appear, so then you can vote. Because at the end, now we see only individual answer, so then it means that it's not a collective answer. So then that, for example, but this now it's only two, I guess, or three. So then we need to look into that. So then it's important that when you see something that you support, others are including, that you really vote for that. So then we can have a clear signal. This is prioritized from you. Cool, perfect.
Okay. Now we lost the screen. Should we go on?
So, yeah, people can keep voting if you want. I don't know why this happened. So then here it is again. I don't see many more people voting.
Okay, then thank you for your input. We will check this again with our list and make sure that all your votes are taken into consideration for the next steps within BOOSTLOG. Could you give me the presentation rights again?
Sure.
Okay, here it is. Yes, what you will see on the next slides is mainly the very first outcome of what we try to derive out of the survey. So it will be more or less, let's say, the basis for discussion. It will be something like that you get an idea into which direction we were thinking. And afterwards, I again want to ask you a question, and you can again use Slido to give the responses. We can also take some time to discuss about it. But I will start with our first recommendations, and then we'll see how the discussion goes on. And I will also explain you what we tried to show in the different recommendations. We have a first one, a recommendation where we said it's about connected networks in a sustainable society. And on the left side, you can always see for all the recommendations the main research question. In this case, how do interconnected networks help in resolving the resource scarcity? On the right, and then again on the left side, you can see there are some sub-questions, some subtopics which are more or less connected to the main research topic. And on the right side, you can see what is the relation to the topics, the trends, and the key enabling technologies from our survey, so that we in the end have a connection and that we can show, okay, there is a link between this topic, this trend, and this key enabling technology, because I think this is also an important input for Paola and the Commission to see which topics are connected to it, which trends are the main drivers, especially if you think about what is the expected impact of all of such a research project. And it's also about the key enabling technologies that at least you can give a hint in which direction the projects should think and which technologies they at least should have a look on. As I said, here we have the connected networks in a sustainable society. We were thinking about how do interconnected networks help in resolving the resource scarcity. So can we use connected networks to get a better usage of existing resources to get rid of the problems? I think this is also connected to the emission point of view. Could we do local or regional? Could we use local or regional resources instead of transporting them all over the globe? I think this is one of the topics which is of course heavily connected to the sustainable trend group we've seen in the summary of the results. Another one. This was also one of the major trends we've seen in the survey. It's coping with the on-demand economy. How can logistic concepts streamline the growing impact of e-commerce channels? And there, of course, we can see those main trends, sustainability and on-demand economy or e-commerce, are not by themselves going into the same direction. So if we have more on-demand economy, if we have more e-commerce deliveries, I think we need to find clever concepts to make them sustainable, and also to deal with emission problems, traffic problems, everything where already the cities today have problems with. And if the on-demand trend is still growing and ongoing, I think we need to make sure that those two major trend groups are going together, and we are not just focusing on one, forgetting about the other one. So this one is about on how to deal with on-demand economy, e-commerce, and at the same time get a more sustainable zero-emission logistics. Another one we've tried to derive out of the survey is the digital connected sustainable intermodal networks. We've seen in the last Slido, synchromodality, intermodality was, I guess, one of the main topics which were mentioned there. So this is already trying to link to synchromodality, intermodality. And here the research question is it possible to show how intermodal networks can be connected for the transfer of information of shipments? And I think it's here, especially on digital transport information. In one of the sub questions, you can see it's the eCMR mentioned, and it's also the connection to the EFTI regulations, so that we can see how to digitally connect the networks first to then enable intermodal or synchromodal networks, because before sharing or before changing the mode, you need at first need to know what are the requirements, what are the combination. Then we have another one, the prepare for disruption. So this was is mainly driven by the supply chain resilience. So it's the resilience and visibility to the next level, how to achieve increased robustness of supply chains using multi-platform forecasting. So of course, this one is connected. You can directly see it by the multi-platform and forecasting, to AI, to agility, to plan, to all those forecast and adapt algorithms. And there it is about if we can get supply chains more robust using AI and other technologies, and also to see how to get data from different platforms and also how to combine data from different sources, maybe internal resources or external resources, public data sources, and all that kind of stuff. And then we have one which is clearly connected to the physical internet, again with the focus on the e-commerce. I told it already a lot of times. This was one of the major trends we've seen in our survey. So it's about modular loading units for e-commerce, and there it's interesting if we could use some kind of loading units for more sustainable concepts, to get rid of the paperboards, the cardboards, to get rid of other stuff which cannot be easily reused. And here, of course, it is about using reusable containers, packets, bins, whatever, directly for the e-commerce purpose. The next one, it's about requirements for sustainable fleets and assets. And there we were thinking about which conditions do sustainable fleets and assets require with the view to data infrastructure, gathering, depiction and analytics, and how can this be addressed. So it is about how to get the right information to see if your fleets and assets are sustainable, how to make them more sustainable, and how to do all this optimization on the sustainability aspect. And then we have one, I think this is not the last one, it's two still to come, but this one is again about sustainability, and here it's about, it would be a CSA for the aligning of initiatives for sustainability measurement schemes. So how do we make sure that in the end we will not end with different hundreds of measurement schemes for sustainability, but perhaps to have only a few for logistics, and they are the ones which should be used, which are the ones who are the best for the use in transport and logistics. And then we have the same one. I think this can also be merged later on, but there it was about aligning those initiatives for the carbon emissions. So it's not just the selection, but also to see if we can bring it together the different initiatives and in the end come up, I don't know, with a European accounting scheme or whatever, which is really fitting to the needs in Europe, to the needs for logistics and transport. Yes, this was the last one. Now I already told it. Now it's your time. What we are looking for is not only the topics, but we are much more looking for which important open research questions do we not yet cover. So Fernando will share the Slido again. And what I would like to discuss with you is what are the open research questions you think should be covered by the next calls for proposals for our recommendations. And of course, you can also, like Fernando said, you can also use the chat to give feedback on our recommendations. As I said, they are the first starting point. They are the basis for discussion. Now we are open for your ideas, and I hope that you can share some research questions from which you think they are the most important ones, and then I think BOOSTLOG can use them in the best way.
Here is the answers we collected. Some answers came after we finished, but at the end, I think there is a good combination not only on logistics concepts but also trends and technologies. So then that could be a good input. And now I move to the next one on your question: which important research questions have not been covered yet? And meantime, maybe Andreas, there was some comments in the chat, so then maybe you can have a look to them.
I will check them. Yeah.
Again, for this, you can write sentences up to 100 characters. It's not a topic. It's which is the question, research question you want to address. This is a reality shortage of truck drivers. It's a reality. What could be the research question? Is maybe more linked speeding up automation, or what type of research do we need to do to address this? That is indeed a pain point or a challenge.
I think this
can contribute.
Yes, I think this is one of the main questions, because the shortage of truck drivers is, can it be solved by research? I think or what is the role of research in the problem in the shortage of truck drivers? I think this is because we need to give a recommendation for future research and innovation activities of the European Commission. So this is why we are asking for the research questions and not just for the problem.
This is always a very hard question, Andreas.
Yeah. I've seen there was already one question dealing with it. It was how can we accommodate more normal working conditions for truck drivers?
That's a good one. It could be addressing other subjects or other topics.
Yes, of course.
It's general. Which other research questions should be addressed? And again, in order for us to get more a collective thought, it's important that you look into what others have wrote and try to also push for those ones that are aligned with your ideas. At the end, we need to look for those. We are 76 67 in the call, so at least 5, 6, or 7 should be able to agree on a priority to really get that, I guess, into the prioritization of the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also input in the chat regarding this truck driver shortage is truck planning.
Mm-hmm. I thought I've seen it also in the Slido, but I'm not finding it right now. But
I added in there.
it's, yeah, I think it. I've internally, I already ordered it to the how can further automation and autonomous mobility solve this shortage of human resources. For me, this, of course, would be fully autonomous transport or truck platooning as, let's say, first step.
I'm resending the event link so that you can really join with your mobile phone, tablet, PC into the discussion and provide your input.
I think we can see there are 2 main questions up to now. Every time, Fernando, we say something about the outcome, it's changing rapidly. So perhaps the people can. I have a question on the now currently the mayor research question here. How can we enable and foster collaboration among different freight stakeholders? Is it about there we can either think foster the collaboration, let's call it on a social level. So why are they not collaborating? Is it more like we need trust or we need other social aspects? Or do you think here it is more about technical requirements? So what do you think is behind this question? Is it more a social problem, a collaboration problem, or is it more a technical problem that, I don't know, interfaces are missing, platforms are missing, whatever? I think this would be, from my point of view, quite interesting.
Andreas, I would say both. It's not being solved by technology only, but it could also not be solved without innovation and technology.
On this one particularly, we will share insights on this event on the 24th of November, because a lot has been done already in this area. Yeah, this is also, let's say, the feedback from the chat, so that it's about the trust, it's about business problems, like Stefano has written here. They perhaps they don't see a business model for collaboration, or they fear that in the end they will no longer have their own trucks. This is also what Jan Tore said. They want to have their own logos on their trucks running for them. And yeah, Sergey said the technology problem is the smallest problem of those 3 ones. Mhm.
It is not a technological problem.
No. If I don't need to be neutral, I would agree, but I will keep it open.
I think it's not moving anymore,
No,
Andreas.
Yeah. So then, thank you for your input. If you have, let's say, comments on what we've shown you, I think we of course will share all our recommendations after this workshop. Then you can always contact us. We'll go on and try to integrate all your input into a next version. Our next deliverable is also due in a few days. So out of BOOSTLOG, there will be a public report or a deliverable covering those first recommendations. But I think Fernando also mentioned it in the chat. This is not a one-time activity. It's more like an ongoing process, because we've already seen with the truck driver shortage, when we asked, beginning of this year, we started the activity. This was not the biggest problem, but it has grown during the months we were working, and we also did the survey. So this will be a returning process, and we'll try to, we will redo it next year, and I think we will perhaps do another instance of it, but we will use the time in between to also get a better view on the trends, the different technologies. So we will ask for your input again. Hopefully we can do it in a physical workshop. I think then the discussions are much easier to structure and to get all your feedback. But I think until now we need to live with this digital version, and I'm happy that you all were giving good input. We still have some minutes left. I don't know, Fernando, do we want to ask open questions or open it for discussion to get some more feedback? Paola is
I think Paola has a comment here.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Just a little comment and a question. This is very, very interesting. And on one side, I mean, it's reassuring that a lot of the trends and the technologies and the ideas that are coming up are a little bit what we have been discussing over time, so that we understand that we are more or less in the right, we have the right view. And it's interesting also how these issues are coming up. But then I think that there are a lot of these issues that we have addressed, or at least partially, with research, with projects, with topics in the last 2-3 work programs at least, actually probably more since Horizon 2020. So I understand this is a very difficult task, but it would be very interesting to understand also what we have addressed, what is new to be addressed, and if something was already tackled in some projects, in some proposals, is, I don't know, we didn't find the result we wanted, is necessary to progress. So to have also an assessment compared to what has been already funded. And I mean, not just from the Commission, I mean, in Horizon 2020 and now in Horizon Europe, but if there was this additional step, what next we need to do? That would be very, very interesting for us. Thanks.
Yes, I think this is fully aligned with what we are planning in the BOOSTLOG project. So this is what I said about the gap analysis, and there we will see, are already different areas covered by projects. And this is also one of the reasons, and we will stress this even more in the next months, it is about the open research question. Because you're right, perhaps this was already covered, and this is no longer a problem of research. Perhaps this is more a problem of implementing something I don't know, giving a new regulation, changing the rules, whatever. So I think we like you said, we really need to differentiate between, is this it can still be a hot topic, but is it still research, or is it something beyond research? And I think this is what we are trying to do. It's not that easy. Because of course there are different opinions on what is research about and what not. But this is exactly what we are planning to do, to really give, not just to repeat the hot topics from the last 5 years, but to really say, okay, there was already progress and we see it is about more implementation. It is no longer research. And this is why we are asking for the research questions, to directly get feedback on what needs to be done there, specifically in research, and not just showing the big problems without any concrete ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, this is very aligned with what we want to do. We are developing these cloud reports, and coordination and collaboration is the first one. And actually, particularly in the past, there has been a lot of gap between what the projects have done and what the projects have said and what it's available. So then many of the results of previous projects in FP6, FP7 are not available, are not common knowledge, and that's changing. But I want to say that most of the time we in many of the areas we see, we are focused on doing things instead of understanding the problems. And this, you can see here, when we make this question, it's always quite general what we receive, and I can imagine many projects, not on all, but many that have addressed. So then was essentially the next step of the concrete research question. That's very, very complex, and the answer for that one is because we keep doing things, not trying to understand what needs to be done. And there is, you can also see all the research and innovation calls are expecting concrete outcomes and outputs, not understanding what the actual problem is. But there we have discussed many times already, Paola. It's okay. It's good. I don't know. I think, Andreas, you already summarized that for you. Next step is that we will have this. We collect this, and then we made this report, and then the next step would be to link previous research and innovation activities on these priority topics. So then to really find out which are the gaps, and hopefully we can reach to better understanding on what has been done and sharing within our network, and also to identify which concrete research questions need to address in the next round of calls. That I think the topics will have a hook there, but we need to be smart in defining the scope and what needs to be addressed to go to the next step in those subjects.
Right. Yeah.
Any other questions, or is any audience would like to have any questions or comments on this topic?
Yeah, there is one question I see from Stefano. Is there any kind of fast track to innovation in Horizon Europe? And there is a call from European Innovation Council that were open, and these are the heritage of those ones. So and there are different volumes. I think it's from 1-2 million to even up to 15 million euro, but yeah, but are very competitive, those ones. I can see also this comment from Daniela on smaller projects being kicked out, and that's why in Alice we look for the physical internet, because at the end this is more based on openness and sharing ways to work. Normally what it happens now is that small SMEs need to work with in as many ways as companies they are working for. And with the physical internet, the idea is that they have a common way to work with them. So then in the interaction they do in the same way. So that's why a physical internet, it's a way to make it low threshold access to digitalization. But it's indeed an actual problem. I fully agree with that.
So any
No more comments? Oh, sorry,
No.
Yanjing, go ahead.
No, just any additional questions and comments. And we see Yan Tori before said there are many results hidden in the previous projects, and the consortium did not take the challenge to bring them into markets, into practices. So they stay hidden, and we are doing similar things over and over again. Yes, that we are fully aware of that.
That's essentially what we try to avoid, to provide more clarity what has been done, and really to make it. And as Andrea said, sometimes the results out there are implementing or going to next step, but which is the next step to really do something that is new.
Yeah, and in Alice we have the knowledge platforms. We're also building innovation marketplace to address this, to bring more results visible to a wider range of stakeholders. So that's also in line with our activities.
But it's a long-lasting effort. Changing.
Yeah. Okay, any more questions? If no more questions, comments, maybe we can ask the keynote speakers give a quick summaries on what they learned from this workshop, or what their views on key priorities. Should I ask Paula first? If you can give a closing remark.
Well, thanks for this. As I mentioned before, for me it's reassuring to understand that we are at least in the right direction, that what we have been discussing the last years and that we are considering for the future is what is considered already a priority for from let's say the external stakeholders. And what is interesting, it was for me to see also the different relations, however, how certain issues can be approached from a different perspective. And I appreciate from the analysis that Andreas has presented also the relation to trends and relations to technologies. And this is interesting for us because in Horizon Europe, more than in the past, we also try to link various areas, what internally we call synergies. That basically is, we try to see what are collaborations among different areas. And I see data, AI, data analytics, modeling, all these issues come back. On the other side, I found interesting, I think it was in the Slido, that at the end, the big question was like how you make stakeholders collaborate, operators to collaborate, and technology is not necessarily the solution. So there are other ways beyond technologies that have to be considered. And this is something I'll find very interesting. Is something that I always try to consider beyond technology. So this for me were the main important points. So thank you for these events. Happy to participate if it is possible to the presentation of the report in November. So thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you for your support and guidance. Chris, what are your key takeaways?
Yeah, my mic is on. Well, first of all, I think, again, shown and proven how important the alignment is and how important it is for a regional cluster to be part of the international platform to make sure that indeed the efforts are well aligned and not too much effort is lost, so that all the efforts that go to innovation are indeed maximized. And I think at the same time it connects to a comment I saw from someone who has a long track record in innovation and European programs, which was perhaps a bit of a bitter comment, but it is something we have to take into consideration. Is indeed, like, many things are being done over again. I think it's also really important that we take into consideration like how we communicate and how we share results and how that can be picked up by the market. So that is something we also have to make sure. Yes, indeed, a lot of what we do is technical or technological and engineering driven. There is more to it, as Paula mentioned. But if we already make sure that what we do on a technological and engineering level is picked up and that not being replicated for the sake of replication, so that is really important. I also noted what Paula was saying, that there is more to it than those answers. But that's the biggest challenge, I think. We always come back on the same topics as trust and collaboration, how to make that happen. It is still a massive challenge, I think. So, but again, something to be taken up. So that's mixed messages, perhaps, but for sure, again, confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Bas, are you there? Ready to give us your summaries and closing remark?
Yes, sure. And many of the words Chris and Paula said, I will not repeat. But what my takeaway is that what I see in the comments and also in the questions raised in Slido is that there is a tendency to be to take a more multidisciplinary approach to a topic. So what I think should try to avoid, and what we've done a lot in the past, I think, is that we are identifying a problem, then find a technology solution or another solution which is not tested in a real life setting. So we need to have the solution we are suggesting with our research taken from a multi-perspective solution. I've made some comments on that in the chat. I will not repeat it, but it's good to see that many of us, at least it's my observation, that we are moving in that direction, which is very important. What I missed in the chat and maybe also in the slide I could not really see is that. So we've done a lot of work, of course, not only in the Netherlands, but through projects like Learn and Freeport in earlier stages on CO2 emissions calculation, and we've made some slides, and Andreas presented them as potential R&I questions. I think that's really important to move to the level that we are not assuming what the real impact is, but that you're actually measuring impact at the operational level, because it should be the fair principle and basics for carbon added accounting, for instance. So I think we need to progress on that to a more detailed level. And there are some real challenges in that. So maybe to add,
I think we lost you, Bas.
and be part of BOOSTLOG projects, because as I mentioned in the beginning of my presentation, that it's a reflection on what the priorities we are setting. Are they aligned with what's happening on the European level? What should we do in the Netherlands specifically? So thanks again for having me, and a lot to learn still.
Thank you very much, Beth. Fernando, can you deliver the closing remarks? And just before we closing it, I would also like to remind you to not forget to register our next event on 24th November. And you will heard a lot how in the past the project's results has been taken in implementations and have a real impact. And that is a long process, but we actually see some concrete result. I will put the registration link again in the chat for your reference. Fernando, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you everybody for joining this session. I hope with this session it's more clear the process that we are doing within BOOSTLOG, but also within Alice, and how these two, the project BOOSTLOG is contributing to Alice, but also Alice has its own roadmaps and its own priorities, but it seems there is some convergence. Still, we need to find the concrete research questions and work on that, and I'm really looking forward to hear from you on those ones. And as I said at the beginning, this is part of a more long-lasting process, trying to build the whole ecosystem in which we can really get connected to different projects, the outcomes of those projects, the implementation cases, and creating the knowledge base for future projects, so then we can accelerate innovation, trying to address the challenges in an affordable way. And that's all, and looking forward to meeting you all still online for the next few weeks, and hope we can repeat soon some pictures. That's the one very nice there. And okay, that's all. Thank you, Jianjin, and all the team for the organization.
Yeah, and all presentations will be available on Alice, and you can always download. And if you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to reach us. And you will also receive the follow-up messages with our concrete results from this workshop. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you again, even virtually. And have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So, bye-bye.
Bye.
Fernando, you stop recording, yeah?